and welcome to this Wednesday afternoon live stream. Hi there. Right, I have to wait on the music going on here so I can turn it off. Yes. Um. Hello, Marie B. Yes, the idea was to cater to the people in Oceania and um, people from India probably as well, Asia, because my Saturday Night live stream is in the middle of the night for a lot of people. So, I thought with Oscar Piastri still leading the championship, even though it's only by 22 points, I thought it would be nice to have a bit of a live stream on a Wednesday afternoon and look forward to the weekend that's coming. Um, I have something planned. One of my YouTuber friends is F1 Unchained, Mickey, and he has this beautiful website that I want to show you. And you can fill in the predictions there, and then you can play along to win prizes, which I never do, but I never win anything. But still nice, to think up front about um, how the different teams will do, and yeah, which teams or which drivers will excel. And yeah, it's something like looking forward to something is usually half the fun in my experience, and I'm really excited about this weekend. Um, we won't have any, except for one boring free practice sessions. I do always watch all of them, but yeah, it's usually kind of a second screen thing. I'm watching free practice while I'm um, arguing with people on Twitter, for instance, or Threads. I'm on Threads as well. So yeah, that's always one of the nice things about um, a race weekend, that you're looking forward to what's going to happen. And yeah, sometimes it comes true and sometimes it doesn't. As for this weekend, I know that at McLaren the gloves will be off. Like Oscar Piastri, he'll be driving with a knife between his teeth to not get whooped again in that way. And that gives perspective. That gives possibilities to Max Verstappen, who will be up front as well. Hey Vegas, good morning. Enjoy your coffee, mate. Yeah, I just thought I'd do it at a different time for a change. See how that goes. Always nice. So Marie B says, that's nice of you, Wimbo, to do it earlier for us antipodians. Antipodens. Antipodens. Antipodians. I don't even know what that means. I'm going to Google that. What is an antipodian? Mm. Australians and New Zealanders. A person relating to Australia and New Zealand. Okay. See, you learn something new every day. Right. Where are we going to start? I think I'm just going to start with my predictions. Let me share the screen here for you. This is going to get trippy for a bit. Okay, and I'll make this bigger. Yes. So, this is Unchained Media Inc. So, it's called unchainedmediainc.com. And it's from my friend Mickey from the channel F1 Unchained. And see, here he is. Now, he does this Unchained Race Week. And you fill in your username, Wimbo F1, and your email address. Okay. Favorite team is Red Bull Racing. Yes. Okay. So I'm going to start at the bottom here. Okay. This means next gen driver. So it's who do I think is going to be the best rookie? This is always Isaac Hadjar. To me, that's the best rookie. Then the driver who's going to finish in P5 is, I think it's going to be Kimi. Okay. Then the driver in P4. Yeah. Is, you're not going to like this, Oscar. The driver in P3 is Lando Norris. The driver in P2 is George Russell. And Max is going to win. Okay? Okay, so here is another different set of questions. These are the performance picks. The fastest lap will be done by Max. Yeah. The biggest gainer, I think, will be Carlos Sainz. Yeah. Because we saw him overtake 4 different drivers. Well, actually, we didn't see it, but we should have seen it. Last race. The biggest loser, I think, Lewis Hamilton. Yeah? Don't ask me why. And pole position is also Max. Okay. Then, constructors. I need to look here. Yeah, with a 3 and a 4, that should be McLaren. Yeah. And then, second constructors team is Mercedes. Let me see. Yes. Third is Red Bull. And fourth is Ferrari. Yeah. Okay, now I'm going to lock it in. Yes. It's processing. Your predictions are locked in. Okay. Right. And there we are again. So yeah, this is what I wanted to show you guys. Let me see. I see a lot of people, new people in the chat. Hank. Hey, Hank. Are you here on Wednesday as well? And Eddie. Nice of you. And Hank is speaking Dutch. Okay. And Eddie says, I think the biggest gainer will be Hamilton, as always. Okay. So you think he's going to make up a lot of places? Right. Um. Yeah. So I advise you guys to look it up. You know that F1 Unchained Media Inc. website, because yeah, it's fun. Right. So what do I expect of the weekend? Now, we only have one free practice session, and that always makes it a bit tricky for drivers and teams. Now, usually before what do you call them? Laurent Mekies was at Red Bull. They would go into a weekend and then they would try a bunch of stuff, and then by the time the race started or qualification was done, Q3 was done, then they found some solution and their way again. But now that Laurent Mekies is at Red Bull, you find that they start the weekend, the Friday free practice session. They start on top of things, and this is definitely gonna help them for the sprint and the qualification in the afternoon. So I'm expecting a lot from Red Bull. Now, I'm not a technical YouTuber, and I usually just go by vibes, and I feel that the momentum is with Max, right? So obviously, I'm always gonna put him at the top. I feel that momentum that McLaren used to have is a little bit gone. Yeah, they're still very fast, but the dominance is gone, and that's why you saw that the last race, Mercedes could win a race as well. Now, I heard that Mercedes has this beautiful new front wing, which they started developing just before the TD018 was introduced. And it's still quite flexible, but this is all within the limits that are allowed. And it's definitely helping Mercedes again to work their way forwards. So that's why I think it's going to be a podium of Max, George, Lando, and then Piastri and what do you call him, Antonelli. That's my reasoning behind it, and also wishful thinking because yeah, with these number of points this weekend, Max will gain enough to have a chance in Abu Dhabi, the last race. Right, so I'm gonna read out some comments again. Eddie says, no, sir, Wimbo. I don't think he will gain many places. I'm just saying he will be the biggest rainbow unicorn out there. Okay. And then everybody's saying hello to Tanveer. Hello, Tanveer. Nice to see you on a Wednesday as well, instead of just a Saturday night. That's a good idea. Everybody can say where they are in the world and what time. Okay, Vegas. It's 7 o'clock in the morning in Vegas, or maybe you're in Virginia again. I don't know. Marie B is in Sydney, Australia, and it's 10:15. And Fibbit is a Dutchie like me, so he lives in heaven. And hey, here's a new name, Top Hat Orange. Cool name. And it's 4:15. Yeah, it is. Marie B says, I can cope with Max P1, but not Norris beating Piastri. Yeah, I know. I'm speaking from my own sort of wishful thinking, you know? Like I've said this many times, if it's not Max, then I want it to be Oscar. Um, but that can happen in the last race as well, you know? Um, maybe Max and Piastri will fight it out in the last race. And then the race director will make a decision and Max will lose the championship. That could also happen, you know? We'll be talking about AD25 for the next 4 years. Oh, Vegas is in Indiana. Right. There's Ivan. In Eastern Europe, it's 4:15. Right. And there's Steve Tadman. He's referencing to the 3 seconds to leave a like. I've noticed in my analytics that I lose a lot of people when I do the 3 seconds to leave a like with the sound and actually waiting for 3 seconds. So I'm afraid that I'm just gonna stop using it because yeah, if every video loses like 7% of their viewers, then the YouTube algorithm won't push it as hard. So, and there's Martin, the lonely cyclist. It's not good weather to cycle, is it? And Eddie says, I went to Fort Wayne and Indianapolis last year because my best friend's girlfriend, who was also my good friend, died from an overdose of fentanyl, unfortunately. Oh God, yeah, I keep hearing that. That fentanyl addiction. I don't think you can get it in the stores here. So, Chicken Tonight says, I hope Antonelli finishes higher than Lando. Yeah. Yeah, I don't mind that. And there's Inge. Hello, Inge. How nice of you to join as well. Maybe I should have waited with all these predictions, but I didn't expect many people to show up. So, you know what? I'm just going to throw out a poll. And we're going to start with who will get sprint pole. George. Yeah, I think it's going to, my personal opinion, but I don't want to influence you guys. I think it's going to be Max who's going to hit the ground running in free practice 1. And then Friday, later that day, we have the sprint qualifying. And yeah, he's just going to put it on pole. I think Max won that race about 4 times. And he's just always really, really good there. You know, last year we had that Max defending against Lando for 10, 12 laps, lap after lap after lap. And then Lando made a mistake by going off track and not giving the position back. Or, well, he got a 5-second penalty and Max stayed ahead while Lando needed the points to still have a chance for that championship. I don't know if you saw the video that I posted yesterday, but that was a race where Max started from P18 and well, with a bit of luck he was P9 before you knew it. But then yeah, he made it to P2 and he finished behind Kimi Raikkonen. the original Kimi. So that was fun. Um, let me see what the chat's saying. Okay, they're talking about the US. Steve says, do we think Lando has found some form? Oscar has lost some form, or a bit of both. Either way, Max is great and Red Bull have improved. Also, George Russell is underrated. Yeah, there's a lot of truth in what you just wrote there. So let me start at the start here. Lando Norris has been, like race pace, the quicker driver overall. But he lost points because he crashed in qualifying in Qatar, and he scored no points in Canada, and he scored no points in Zandvoort, and yeah, there's been quite a few occasions where Lando lost a bunch of points, and that's why Oscar is still in front. But Oscar was always consistent, so you'd get into a weekend, and Lando would top FP free practice 1, free practice 2, free practice 3. Lando would top Q1, Q2, and then in Q3, boom, there's Oscar, and he could start the race from pole. And then during the races as well, Oscar used to be less accident prone. But yeah, he threw that out the window when he crashed in Baku for no reason. And yeah, like he got diddled a little bit in Singapore because he was focusing on Max, and he didn't expect to get shoved out of the road by Lando Norris. But that's all going to change because if Oscar's in front of Lando, then he'll be looking in the mirrors instead of concentrating on Max. I think the gloves are going to be off, definitely. Yeah, Max is great. He scored the most points since the summer break, 2 second places and 2 wins. And then, no, 3 second places and 2 wins. And George Russell, yes, George Russell is highly underrated because I think he's the only driver on the grid that hasn't made any huge mistakes. Where he used to be called Osama bin Russell, and he was always good for a bit of terrorism and stuff. We haven't seen any of that. But yeah, the Mercedes package has been wishy-washy, so it was very hard for him to consistently get podiums. But he's always top 5, except in Monaco. But that was because Alex Albon was holding him up the whole time. So yeah, and I don't know if you guys noticed this, but on Twitter, the war between George Russell fans and Max fans has started again, because fucking Ted Kravitz, in his stupid fucking book, came out and said that George Russell had asked him, I'm gonna take it to Max. I'm just gonna expose Max for what he is. So if you ask me a question about Max, then can you do a follow-up question, because I want to really get this out of here. So they basically staged a conversation, and this is the conversation where George Russell went, Max lashes out in furious anger and rants, and he's unreasonable and all that stuff. Right. So all that has died down now, and Max and George, they're happy enough with each other. But Ted Kravitz has this stupid book out, and he wants to promote it, and this is the bit that gets posted everywhere, and now all the fan groups are arguing again. So yeah, I went on Twitter and I just said that that I'm not going to argue that whole um, George versus Max case again, but I just wanted to point out what a slimy, untrustworthy rat Ted Kravitz is for exposing his source like that. You know, that's not journalism. And a lot of people agreed. It's a bit of a hate tweet. So, um, okay, let me go back to the chat. Oh, Eddie is talking about fentanyl. Yeah, okay. Hank says, if every YouTuber follows the algorithm strictly, all videos become the same. That's true, Hank. But yeah, I still want to get, you know, my videos to go viral. And if I lose like 7 or 8%, like if I see a drop in my retention because I'm asking people to wait 3 seconds and then give me a like, then I'm not going to use it anymore, you know? Okay. Okay. That's all internal chat. Hank says, Oscar usually makes the same mistakes only once. This will be a big test to confirm this. Yeah. Yeah, that's what we've seen from Oscar over the last 2.5 years, that he'll mess something up and then he'll fix it. Like in 2024, his race pace was lacking and his qualifying was lacking, and he picked all that up. So yeah, like I said, he's leading the championship, and you know, if you're wise, you put your money on him. But yeah, I'm a Max fan, so I'm not wise. Steve says, I think I will laugh if McLaren leave it too late to prioritize one driver for the championship and Max steamrollers his way past both of them. I chat to people that swear it can, though. Yes, well, that would be the biggest revenge ever on McLaren with their stupid papaya rules, and you know, trying to organize everything. And yeah, it's nothing to do with racing. Steve says Ted Kravitz should generally be ignored, as can most of the Sky crew apart from Karun, who's amazing. Yeah, I like Karun Chandak. And Eddie says Ted is the perfect example of a beta male. Yeah. Vegas is gonna DM me. Okay. Here's 3 seconds to leave a like. Yeah. Steve says Sky seem to go after the controversy and celebrity style stories rather than F1 itself. Well, the problem is that the core people that pay a fortune for Sky Sports F1 or the whole package, they need to please them. And I think those are the people who read the tabloids daily, who watch EastEnders every day, get their lunch from what do you call that store? Greg the Baker's, and get drunk in the pub every night. Just, you know, the salt of the earth kind of people, and to please them, and to really rile them up, you need to have a certain way of journalism, and that's what Sky Sports is doing. Like my previous video, not the last video, but the one before that, was called "Stop with the British Bias, Have Dutch Delusion Instead," and it explained how the Sky Sports commentators heard a radio to Isaac Hadjar saying, you know what the plan is for Max and Lando coming up? And they immediately went to a place where Red Bull was using the sister team and a sister team driver to hold Lando Norris up, which is completely against the rules. And that obviously didn't happen because they were just creating a mood already before anything even happened. But I bet you the people in South London or in Sheffield or in Liverpool or in Manchester, they were sitting in front of the TV going, fucking hell, you know? And yeah, they're creating a mood, and that's usually what gets toxic on social media. And then they all act like, oh, Formula One used to be fun and people used to be nice to each other, but it's actually Sky Sports F1 that caused all this. But anyway, mm, mm, mm. Vegas says Sky is a news and lifestyle channel. Okay. Hank says, I understand, but it's a thin line to balance on. You want to keep your authenticity, but also a huge following. Yep. He's still talking about the 3 seconds to leave a like. Steve says, the absolute fuss they made about Horner and WhatsApp over the stuff happening on track was ridiculous. Yes, but now that Christian Horner is sacked, Martin Brundle says in interviews, yeah, Christian Horner is a friend of mine, and Max Verstappen wanted him out, and Jos Verstappen wanted him out, and so now they're pretending Horner is a victim of just Red Bull internally, but Red Bull was tired of the Christian Horner is a bad guy act as well. The always the rebel kind of thing, that the sponsors didn't like that. And Sky Sports have been feeding that, the Christian Horner is the villain for ages. Total Wolf with Hamilton were the good guys, and Christian Horner with Max, they were the bad guys. So they were responsible for that as well. So it's completely unfair to then all of a sudden pretend that Sky Sports was always on the side of Christian Horner, because they weren't. I remember so many nasty interviews, like Christian Horner getting pushed to sack Perez, and then they did, and then they're pushing for Liam Lawson to get sacked, and now they're doing the same with Yuki Tsunoda. So, yeah, they're a bunch of rats, all of them. Ivan misses James Allen. I've heard of the name, but yeah. Steve Tadman says, you are describing most of England. Yeah, I know. I've lived in England. And I'm actually going there again for Christmas because my sister-in-law is English. The Lonely Cyclist says, according to rumors, as I have it, Sky is better than Viaplay. Okay. Tanvir says, most people watch F1 is for drama and not for the racing. Yeah, I'm the same. But then, yeah. The same fans still bang on about Lewis. But I said, fucking hell. Tanvir says, that's why circuits like Madrid are getting added. Yeah, that's another thing. Hank says, as a Dutchie, I don't watch Viaplay. The commentary couple they employ was bad already when they were employed on Eurosport 20 years ago. Yeah. Okay, let me see how the poll has ended. 60% thinks Max, 29% Oscar, 12% Lando. And nobody thinks George. Okay. Right, let's do a new one. Who will win the sprint? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I'm just doing it all randomly, yeah? Let me do it this way. So if you have somebody else who you think is going to win the sprint, then just type it out. Um, Hey Martin, I don't know what happened here. Maybe you didn't confirm it right, or but if you give away 5 memberships, then it pops up and all the names pop up one by one. So I don't know what happened there. Hank says, no offense, but Madrid could provide proper racing while it is a hybrid track. It's partly street track and partly purpose built one. Yeah, we're just gonna have to wait and see. I wasn't very impressed with the little video I saw of the track, but that's probably because they put an amateur in the car in the sim to drive the lap. I'll have a look at it, Martin. Thank you so much for giving 5 memberships away. If it all went through okay. Steve says circuit specific as well. Ride height affects Ferrari and Mercedes. Temperature affects McLaren. If it's cooler, McLaren are screwed. Bumpy surface will affect Merc and Ferrari. Okay. But yeah, let's talk about Kota. Um, it's one of the best tracks out there, I think, and it's definitely one of the tracks that I really want to go to. But who do you guys think is going to be? Which team is going to be the strongest there? Is it a McLaren track with some medium slow corners, or you know, I know there's a big straight and it goes up. Um, yeah, so give me your side of the technical analysis of the track and the layout, and I'll have a look here if there's any news. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, you know what we could talk about? Uh, Lonely Cyclist says Red Bull and Mercedes have always been good in Coda. Yeah, that's true. It was always between them. Steve says Red Bull will go well. They seem to have a softer chassis overall. Okay. Lewis won 5, Max won 3. Well, let's make it 4. Hank says, according to the last 3 races, McLaren lost the easy speed they owned over the rest of the field, and not just over a Max in the Red Bull. Well, that's good news, because if we can get more drivers between Max and the McLarens, then the championship will get even more exciting. Hank says something fishy was going on there. Okay, so what was going on, do you think? What was the fishy thing that was going on? Oh, Steve meant not Red Bull, but Racing Bulls. Yeah, they call it V carb. That's what what people usually call the Red Bull sister team. So, yeah, what else? Alpine. If we're looking at the bottom, that they don't seem to make much progress. Although Colapinto is doing a little bit better, but I think he'll still get replaced by Paul Aaron. And then, who do you guys think will be the second slowest team? Um, it's hard to decide. Like the Stake F1 team, they're pretty slow, but you know, Hulkenberg and Bortoleto still can get a result out of those packages sometimes. And then who else do we have? Aston Martin. What do we expect from Aston Martin in the US? I think they're all gambling on next season. Um, I know that um, what do you call him? Fernando Alonso has said if the car's great next season and he can be competitive, then it'll be his last year because he wants to close off on a bit of a high. But if the car is still poor, then he'll stay another year to fix the car, and then yeah, I love seeing Alonso, but also I like the youngsters as well. So I'll be happy either way. Um, Lonely Cyclist says, I call them the White Bulls, the Red Bulls, the Red Bull sister team. Vegas says, the S's set the pace of the lap. Confidence through them sets up the fastest hairpin to the straight. The last two turns can catch out the distracted. Okay, well that's good news for Max because he's brilliant at those S's. That's how he got pole in Japan by just going faster than anybody else in the S's. And then there's a name that I don't know, SEO858. My technical analysis is burn, 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 Max Verstappen. Okay. Nice. Hank says, I don't know what was going on, but it smells like Ferrari in 2019 before we knew about the non-closure settlement. Oh, yeah, you're talking about how McLaren was so fast, like almost all year long, and then they were tested and checked, and they did nothing wrong. But now they've lost a lot of pace, and nobody's talking about it. It is something that I need to keep an eye on. Marie says, sorry, Wimbo, I have to go. I'm at work and I need to attend to a patient. You look after your patients. And it was nice to see you here anyway. So, and have a lovely race weekend. Hank says, AMR is all over the place. It, however, seems to improve. Low top 10, I would say. Okay. And Ivan says, Kota is awesome. Unfortunately, I cannot say the same about Hermanos Rodriguez circuit. I think Mexico is a cool place as well, especially because Max keeps winning there. Mexico. Steve says Alonso has to stay. He is my go-to when people say Lewis is slowing due to his age. Okay, let me finish this. Finish this poll. Yeah. Now, I could probably do the same thing for the qualifying of the race and then the race as well, but I think the results will be pretty much the same. So yeah. There's no point in doing any more polls. I think you guys are keeping me going nicely with your chats and your questions. So keep it coming. Um, oh, you know what I can tell you? Tonight, I'm recording a podcast with a guy called Brandon. Brandon is an English Formula One fan who's put himself on a quest to visit all the races this season. Um, and that means he gets stuck with work, because his annual leave days are almost finished, and it's very expensive. So he has a budget that he needs to stick to. So he's always trying to find, the best budget. A lot of what do you call it? These tickets where you don't have a seat, where you just have to sit free range. Um, and he's posting that on Instagram, and he has a YouTube channel where he's posting his shorts, and he makes these lovely little short videos out of it. That's how I noticed him, and yeah, I sent him a DM, ask him if he wanted to talk about it um, on my channel, and he said yes. And then I noticed that he was in a TV show from F1 TV with Alex Jacques. So, that was pretty interesting. Vegas, thank you so much for joining, and I'll see you this weekend in the chat, hopefully. Ivan says Mexico track would be much better if they had kept the 1992 layout. Yeah, that's before my time. But yeah, so that's something to look forward to. The podcast with Brandon, who travels all the races. Hank says Mexico City circuit is an outlier and therefore exciting. It doesn't always provide the best racing, I would say. There was a time where certain engines would be much faster because the air was thinner. Like I remember Red Bull always being good at high heights because for some reason the Honda engines did really well at higher altitudes. But maybe I'm confused with something else here. Not sure. You know what also is a topic? Zach Brown. Zach Brown is in court with Alex Palou, and there's so many details coming out about how Zach Brown didn't want Oscar Piastri. It was actually Seidel that wanted the Piastri, and yeah, Zach Brown reacted to that really well. He said, "I don't know what's more laughable, uh, saying that I had no say in which driver was coming, or that I wasn't behind getting the hugely talented Lando or Aldo Oscar Piastri in." And it was both. Yeah, I thought it was brilliant comment because he didn't deny anything, but he poured water on both of the statements. So I thought it was clever. But yeah, there's more stuff coming out. I think. What do you call him? Andretti. I think he wasn't happy with Zach Brown either, and Lavies, he always follows all the news, and he's been saying quite a few more things about what's happening with Zach Brown and McLaren. So, yeah, interesting stuff. Ivan says the altitude affects the naturally inspired engines, not the turbo, probably. Yeah, and Hank says the Honda Turbo is slightly bigger, and all turbos are restricted to a max RPM, and therefore the Honda power unit delivers a tad more power there. And a Lonely Cyclist says any disruption within McLaren is good for the other teams, especially that one other team. That's true, but you know what's so fun for me to see, like when Red Bull was dominating, they got attacked from every direction. Yeah, the budget cap, internal struggles, like a second driver seat, the way they treated drivers, Helmut Marko saying stuff and then things blowing up. But now that Red Bull is in P3 and McLaren is dominating, we see that McLaren gets attacked from all the directions, and it's just nice to experience it from a different angle. Um, like I didn't expect even British media to be so against the papaya rules and everything. But they it turns out they hate team orders just as much as we do. So I have to say fair play to the British media for attacking McLaren as well, for trying to manipulate all these race results for fairness. It's nice to see. Guys, have you got any more questions before I slowly start packing it in? Because I think we've discussed everything now. I'm just checking some news here. Rob Smedley, who works for Mercedes, has said that they're still hoping to get Max Verstappen in their team, and that's why it's hard to negotiate more than a 1+1 with George Russell, because they want to keep that option open in case Max wants to go there. And I suppose Max has already said that he doesn't want to drive with George Russell, and that's why George Russell is the one that has to go if Max comes. But it's interesting. Toto Wolff is just incredibly clever when it comes to business, because, like, he saw that Lewis Hamilton was declining. But it would be really bad PR to say, oh, Lewis, we're not going to give you a new contract. So they gave him a 1+1 deal and a lot less money. And I think the ambassadorship that they talked about, I think that was toned down a bit. And that's why Lewis Hamilton felt the need to go over to Ferrari. And now Ferrari is stuck with a grumpy, not performing old driver. And Toto Wolff, he's starting over again with a fresh, young, new face. So let me see. Hank says, even Brits see the bad look papaya rules are radiating. Yeah, that's good. Polish Eddie says, Wimbo, when are we doing a podcast? Yeah, we could do that sometime. Or we can maybe do a live stream together. That's fun. The Lonely Cyclist says, say hi to Samantha from us. Samantha's sleeping because we always get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. And yeah, we finished at about 12:30 and she just went straight to bed. Lonely Cyclist says, oh no, I've already read that one. Hank says, I do think Mercedes doesn't have a chance to sign Verstappen. Now, if Red Bull keeps making a good car and Max can fight for a title, There's no way he's going to leave that beautiful package, that everything that he has with Red Bull, he's not going to leave that behind. But if they fall short and Max doesn't see any potential, then he might go, but only if Mercedes has the strongest package, because he's not going to leave Red Bull behind to go and lose with another team. So it's definitely something that we need to keep an eye on. Oh, here's another new name, Dyslexic Dutchie. It's a good move to make. Mercedes drop George. Yeah. Well, not really. I think George is really good, but he can be a bit of a dickhead sometimes. Lonely Cyclist says, Max going nowhere until 28. Correction, Max going nowhere when it comes to F1. Yeah, that's what I think as well. I think he's just going to sit out his whole contract, and even if he extends, it's all with Red Bull. Steve says, I don't see the fuss about Mercedes. They are no better performance-wise. No. And, like, their car is lacking. The designers that built that car have been lacking. Then all of a sudden, next year, they might have, like, a stronger engine than anybody else. But if that package is still lacking, they're not going to be the quickest team. Hank says maybe he leaves Red Bull, or no, Formula One before his contract ends. That could happen as well. Nah. I think he still loves it too much. Formula One. Well, we never know. We don't know. Right, people. I yapped for an hour. If there's no new topic or anything that you guys wanna discuss, then I'm just gonna pack it in. I'll do my Saturday night normal live stream as well. I have that podcast planned, which I'll try to post before the weekend. Steve says he'll go to Aston Martin with Newey. Yeah, it's also a possibility, but only if they have the best package. Dyslexic Dutchie says it's a good move from Max's perspective. He's not a George fan. Nobody is. Seo858 has another cracking comment. He says, so you think if AMR is performing good in 2026, Alonso will go, so there's a seat for Max. Also, AMR have GT3 and hypercar for Max to drive. Yeah, those are things that he'll take into consideration. Definitely. So Alonso will prepare the championship winning car for Max. That's kind of poetic as well. And Max will picking the fruit of Alonso's work. Yeah. Polish Eddie is talking about all of his chickens. Okay. You'll have a nice breakfast then. Right, everybody. I'll see you all in the next one. Take care now. Doei doei.